Yeah, I'm not dead. I've just been really busy with school stuff. And as you guys can see...
Alright, what's going on, guys? This is Goryblade here. And...
Alright, guys, what is going on? It's Audios here.
Hey, yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Arcane Squad's map number 1.
So right now, me and Ziggy just came down from our long stick.
This video is not an HCF Let's Play. This video is going to talk about everything that contributed to the downfall of HCF. Before we can talk about the downfall, we need to examine what made HCF popular in the first place. Introduced in June of 2014, HCF stands for Hardcore Factions, and as the name suggests, it is the more hardcore version of the already infamous factions that already dominated the Minecraft multiplayer landscape. The difference between the two can be rather subtle. In factions, if you go below a certain faction power, your base will be able to be overclaimed. However, in HCF, if you do die multiple times, your deaths are exchanged for DTR, which stands for Death Still Raidable. Raidable means everything in your entire faction's claim is temporarily unclaimed and anyone can access it. HCF thrived off of this grindy game style. You were not given any handouts. When you joined the server for the first time, you were given 16 steak and occasionally a fishing rod. Also, did I mention if you did die, you would get banned for over an hour? Yeah, it was a little hardcore. Unsurprisingly, HCF servers at the time were not pulling in a significant amount of money. There wasn't anything to monetize. If you started to sell in-game items, that would automatically break the hardcore aspect of the whole game mode. Players of this game mode were already so adjusted to crafting each set of armor that it would typically take them several hours to even several days. And they would treat that armor as if it was their life, because they worked so hard and they earned the item. They would not dare to die easily. HCF ran nearly unharmed for 2 years, without any major issues. However, in 2016, after a new combat update was introduced to Minecraft, the number one HCF server considered at the time, Kohi, was sold to a competing server by the name of Badline. However, Badline was not supportive of the whole HCF concept and saw it more as a burden than, a benefit. So shortly after the acquisition, Badline shut down the entire HCF scene hosted by Kohi. Now, there was a competing server at the same time called MineHQ, which was incredibly popular as well and sometimes fought for the number one spot between that and Kohi. Shortly after the 2016 update from Mojang where they changed the combat, MineHQ decided it would shut its doors down too. This opened up a business opportunity for many countless servers to be created. Now, a lot of these servers were already existing, they were just not nearly as popular until the loss of these enormous companies that, let everyone sprinkle out and create their own little servers, which grew into ginormous brands, I guess you could call them now. These servers needed a way to pull profit, so they could afford to keep themselves up. And most of these servers started by selling very innocent items to pull their profit, such as keys or loot box items that would return a reward that would return a small reward, such as diamonds or any other material you could see, such as iron, gold, redstone, etc. This was the turning point in HCF. HCF entrepreneurs, I'd like to call them, saw this as the ultimate idea to start to absolutely wreck the economic system in which HCF was based off of. They would resort to a pay-to-win style of the game mode, and this right here split the community directly in half, of those in favor of the hardcore styled game mode and those in favor of the easy, quick, fast-paced setup HCF. You can't really even call it HCF at that point though. Several servers began to latch onto this idea of pay to win. Some significant names may be Velt PvP, Faithful MC, HE Games. If you recognize those names, I love you, okay? You know HCF. Long story short, long story short, you can probably see how a community based off of the hardcore aspect of Minecraft cannot really survive in an economy that it goes against everything it was meant to be. Now, HCF did have to adapt, and as of right now, fast forward, HCF is unrecognizable now. Cornerstone ideas were taken and implemented that would absolutely change how HCF is perceived nowadays. Here are some of those things that people widely considered negatively affected HCF. Now, I know everyone is expecting me to talk about partner items and how they killed the game mode, but before I talk about the negative connotations of partner items, I want to give my honest opinion. I don't think partner items actually killed anything or hurt HCF in any way. If you don't know what a partner item is an item given to a partner of the server that has a special ability, such as an explosive egg that would launch players into the air. That's an example. I mean, that may or may not be my own partner item. Who knows? Taking the context of HCF at that state prior to the addition of partner items, the largest networks were not reaching a significant amount of players, and something fresh and new needed to be done to invite old and new players to revisit the game mode. Otherwise, HCF was taking a straight train track dive into the ground. Now, I do believe partner items have been taken out of hand and have become increasingly more difficult to counter as the partner items advance. I fully believe this wasn't a problem up until it was taken too far. But now I think we're too far to really be able to complain about its existence, and we just have to really deal with it if you are a modern day HCF player. Partner items were also meant to be the first counter to a very popular trend, which was trapping. Now, obviously trapping, it gives a huge advantage to the trapper, who is in their own claim and has the ability to interact with the blocks around them, while the enemy player cannot, which gives him this massive advantage that is very hard to even the playing field for. Now, partner items temporarily did this. It allowed players to give themselves an advantage while in other players' claims, such as being able to disable them from being able to place blocks in their claim to taking extra damage. Now, a lot of these partner items, like I said, did advance and become increasingly more and more overpowered, which in the end hurts the game mode. Our real problem is that HCF is so economy based that it's not funny. I don't want to talk or mention about the recent issues that have happened because I have already talked about this. So instead, I'm going to use an example from 2018-ish to 2019 about Velt PvP and Faithful MC. They were both hit by a Mojang block from their server, which means you could not access it. They received this block because they refused to comply with the Minecraft EULA, which simply put is a guideline that you accept when you host a Minecraft server. Minecraft introduced a strict policy against selling in-game items that would put players at an advantage against other players, and instructing any server that does that will be blacklisted from allowing players to connect. This dug a hole for our HCF community. As it was increasingly getting larger, Mojang decided to reinforce their punishment system that would not allow players to connect. HCF also doesn't have the ability to reach new players. As HCF continues to get older and older and more irrelevant, the less new players we experience is, it's happening. We are seeing less and less new people play HCF because HCF is a dying game mode and it's on a 5-year-old version. It's all fair. This puts into question whether or not HCF will live another few years. There is some hope though. I know I've been super negative and I've only talked about the problem with HCF, and I guess that's the title of this video or whatever, but there is hope. HCF has survived some pretty tough times. Sometimes that, look more tough than what we are right now. Many people seem to overlook these things, and I'm surprised that people forget that these things are HCF's biggest problems at the time, and what people didn't believe what would happen if HCF survived. People didn't believe these things would happen to HCF because they thought it was too far gone. In 2018/19, when seemingly every HCF content creator decided to pull the plug on their YouTube channels, giving up every single thing they've ever worked for in the HCF community, HCF was put at its scariest moment, when even the biggest server owner decided to pull a quits on its community. I'm obviously talking about this guy named Solium. Now, whether or not he was significant is not important. The fact that he pulled the plug on his own server directly affected the entire HCF landscape by making it clear that HCF is not long-term and that people are going to come and go. Now, HCF was by itself. The only competing servers at the time were probably around like Faithful MC and the newly forming Viper. Viper was just barely setting its feet. There wasn't a lot to play there. Now, Faithful MC, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't care to make fun of it because I like making fun of it because it's a terrible place. They have fake players. I wouldn't even consider them to be an HCF I wouldn't even consider them as an HCF competitor, but we're just going to mention their name because they did contribute to HCF in some way. I'd like to credit Viper MC for the revival of HCF. Now, I know this is controversial because I am a Viper MC partner. I do somewhat represent the community. Viper's new HCF server at the time, Infernal, was setting records left and right and quickly rose to the HCF Hall of Fame or whatever. While now they are facing issues, I can only ask those who do enjoy playing Viper and do want to see it continue to exist that they show support. Because right now this is a bad time for the HCF community to watch the biggest HCF server go down. Now, this isn't just about Viper. This is the whole HCF community. If we lose Viper, we lose a vital piece of the HCF community that cannot be replaced. Now, without Viper's innovation to the HCF game mode, we would not have what we have today, and that is a seemingly stable HCF. Now, we're starting to take a decline, which is very scary and very real, but we have to admit we have to give credit where credit is due. Viper had a massive contribution to the HCF community. Every server is working against each other in this current state to create something even better than the others. Now, I make no mention of Cave until just now, because Cave, to me, has always been that server that is just continuously pumping out and trying to go for the #1 spot. And I completely respect them. And you know what, right now, I'm not going to say anything, too detrimental, but Cave is currently, taking their road. Cave is on their way to taking that #1 spot because of situational circumstance. Now, Viper still has a chance, and I don't want people to think otherwise. Viper is currently in talks with Mojang. And I give this update because, we can only go off of the announcements, and this whole circumstance is just important to bring up, that HCF right now is at its scariest moment ever. And we just need the support of the community so we can survive this as a community. Because HCF has only ever survived things in the past because the community chose to stick around.